Hello, I've had a problem with detecting what object do I collide with, specific object type I'm talking about here. So I've decided to research this topic a little bit and make a guide out of it. So I've prepared a simple scene in here. I've got three objects, basically copies of each other. You can see the scene already running on the right side of the screen. All of them are character bodies 2D. I've also got a camera, but this is not important. Also, the player got a simple script attached. Here we're just setting velocity based on our keyboard inputs. So if I'll print our velocity, save, and I will press different arrow keys, it will be changing. Other important thing, everybody except the sprite also got a collision shape attached. This will be required to detect our collision, and the collision shape is of the same size as a sprite. So now, first step, we need to collide. To do it, we'll be using our editor, and here in the collision tab, we've got layers and masks. Layer is where the object is, and masks are the layers that the object will collide with. So I will set my player on layer 1 and I will make it collide with layer 2, and then I will set, first I will show. I also need to have some kind of a moving function, so I will drop a move and slide in here. So now when I move, I go through the objects. This is not cool, but keeping the player on layer 1 and having it collide with layer 2, and then setting obstacles on layer 2, both black and red, will make player able to collide with obstacles. Now that we collide, the next step is getting a collider. What's a collider? A collider is a reference to the object that you collide with. This is really important because by having reference, you can just call a method on this object. You don't even have to use signals if you don't want to. There are different ways of getting a collider. It depends on how do you detect collisions. So if you're using a move and slide function, you can control left click on the name and you will go to the documentation. Here you will see that this function returns true if collided or otherwise false, but you can also see that you can get latest collision by calling this function get last slide collision, and you're calling it on the character body 2D, as you can see in here. So we can check if we collided, and then we can get collision by calling this function. Now if I save, you can see in the console that we're getting collisions. Now if we've got a collision, we get collider simply by calling get collider. That's how we get a collider out of a move and slide function. Now if you're using a move and collide function instead, then it will be a little bit simpler, because you can just call a move and collide, and if you go to the documentation, here you will see that it already returns a kinematic collision. So we've got one less function to take care of, let's say. And here I prefer making a helper variable, call this one a collision, also static type it. And you also need to pass a velocity to this function. And you also should multiply by delta if using move and collide. Now simply check if the collision occurred. So if our collision exists, and here you can simply call a get collider on our kinematic collision. Now we should be getting the same output as before. You can see it in the console once again. Next way to do it, you may want to use an area 2D for detecting collisions. So let's say that my player will have an area 2D. Now you can see a warning in here. It says that it needs a collision shape. So I'll grab the collision shape out of the player. drag it as a child of an area. Now the warning will go into the player. It means the same, but I don't need a collision shape for player, at least if I want to show you what I want to show you. So now let's go back to our player script. Press on area 2D, and we want to use one of areas 2D signals, specifically the body entered signal. I will connect it using the editor. You can do it from the code or whatever you prefer. So let's connect the signal to our player, and I won't be editing the method name because this is not important. When we get the signal, we can simply print our body, or maybe not print, use our body, and the body will be the collider. But we still need some kind of a moving function. You can also move based on positions, whatever you want, but this won't be the easiest to implement. Now we need to go to the area 2D collision tab and throw on the same collision layers that we've been using in the player. So one collision layer 1 and mask 2. Now the collision layer and mask on player don't matter because it doesn't have a collision shape. So I will throw it like that, save, and now we should be able to get the same output. Okay, I had to reload the console, but now when I move, we're getting the pretty much same output as before when we were using the move and slide and collision functions. Now we'll remove the area 2D once again because it's not needed anymore. It was only for showing you how to do it. I will comment it here if you want to compare the methods in one place. And I think that the last way to get the collisions is using a raycast. So let's add a raycast to our player. I will turn on the visibility of collision shape so that you can see a raycast. And I won't really go into the detail on how it works and how to set it. But let's say that I have a raycast pointing upwards. You can see it in here. Maybe I made it a little bit too long even. You can also simply collide, and you can grab a raycast collider the same way as you do with other things. Here I will create a helper variable. I will call it a raycast and static type it so that I will get method hinting. Or maybe just make it an onReady var and already assign it to our node. And we can simply make a checking like first check if we've collided even, the same as with the move and slide function. And now I think that you can also go to the documentation simply, and here you can see the one method get collider and the other is colliding. And if we know that we're colliding, you can simply use our raycast get collider. And after doing that, we have to go into our raycast and here tick on the collision mask too so that it will collide with the specific mask. And now after saving, you should be able to collide. Okay, you can see in the console colliding. So now you can compare different methods of getting colliders, and in 1 second I will show you on one of them what you can do with the colliders further. So now I'll be showing you how to do it based on the move and collide function. Everything is really simple. Player on layer 1 and colliding with mask 2. And these bad boys will be on layer 2. We can also simply move. Every way of getting a collider that I've shown will be behaving the same way. The only thing that is different is how do we prefer to get it. Now if you get a collider, we can simply get its name using the name parameter. Now we'll be having pretty inputs like that based on our object name, but beware there may be problems with dynamically spawning objects from code. They may lose their distinctive names and grab some random stuff. So I'm not sure if this is a preferred method. Other things that we can do, we can go to one of our objects, attach a script to it, and make this object a class. So you need to call a class name at the top and throw your unique name in there. I will call this one black. You may also want to read a little bit about class names if you want to use it. And now going back to our player. After doing that, I can simply check if the collider is a object of type black. Now after saving and reloading the project, because it got a load, I can go and I will be getting a boolean based off what I've collided with. So false on the red and true on the black. One important thing in here, if you would want call a get class method on this guy, you won't be getting the proper output. You will be simply getting a character body 2D because it returns a base class, so the one which the black extends. So now I will detach the script because we won't be needing it anymore. The other thing you may do is you may call a get collision layer on this object. This one will be giving you a specific bit number, so you can see number 2 showing up. What is it even? Now if we go into the collision tab, after hovering over, you can see a bit value equal to 2. It will be 1, 2, 4, 8. This will be powers of number 2. So for example, if you put a black on the layer 2 and the red on the layer 3, then you will gain an ability to detect objects. Wait, you also need to make a player able to collide with masks 3. We'll be getting ability to differentiate objects based on their layers. What you can do with it, make using magic numbers like 2 and 4 is not very nice, but you can make something like enum or a dictionary, and here you can create stuff like, I don't know, layer 2 and make it equal to 2, and layer 3 which you can make equal to 3. And now you can simply whether or not this is true. As you can see, true, false, it works. Remember that you can put this enum or dictionary, whatever you prefer, in the global autoload function so that every object will have access to it. Also, if you want, you can automate it a little bit. When you right click on the layer, you can rename it. I will call it my 2 and let's say layer 3 my 3. And now you can get access. You can get access to the setting by calling project settings, get setting, and I've copied a path for myself because I'm not sure how do you get it properly. This is the correct path, but let's change it to layer 2 and maybe so grab it for layer 3. And now let's reload the project. We should be able to get the layer names like, okay, as you can see, what you can do with that, you can simply assign powers of number 2 to the number of layers, throw it into an enum of a dictionary, and you will be able to have an access to the global layer names like that. And then you will be able to call it by string names from your enum without making it manually yourself. Now the next thing, because as I've said, the collider is a reference to an object, then you can simply call this object parameters or methods. So let's say that for example, I'll use the position parameter. This will be basically a position of our black or red object or whatever you collide with. So now we'll be getting a position of different objects. Also, if you want to use a method of this object, let's say that once again I will attach this black script, and here I will make a function my print, real simple just for testing. This will print 1 to 3. I can call this method my print. The black I need to reload. Now I can call this method the null is from the printing this thing. Now I can call this method on my black object, but the problem will be with the red object. It will crash. So to prevent that, we can create a variable collider, for example. Throw our collider in there, and we can go with if our collider has method, just a string name, so my print, then call this method string. Okay. Now, after running it, we'll be getting the output here, but no crash in there. Also remember that you can simply call a signal after detecting a collider. You don't have to use methods. Now the last way to do it will be using groups. It's probably the best way to do it also. We won't be needed this part anymore. And now if you will go click on the proper object and go to the node editor, right to the signals, we can go into the groups tab. Here we can manage groups. And for example, let's create a new group called enemy1. And you can add to this group whatever you want. So I will add the black dude. Okay, now it will show here in the groups tab, but it won't be on our red object nor our player. So now that we've got a black object in our group, we can simply check if our collider is in group enemy1. Maybe just print the output, save. It will give us true on the black object and false on our red object. Other two helpful methods about groups. One is the get groups, not group. This is important, and this one will give you a group of the object. It went only on collision because we have it like this. And the last thing is that you can add an object to a group from the code. You don't have to use an editor. I've created an red object script. Here in the ready function, I can simply call add to group. And I will create a new group. I will run it once again. Here I will be getting a black object group, and here I will be getting a red object group. And that will be it. I haven't found any other method. Wish you best luck. Bye.